I have been sick for the last few days. Tried to do a live the other day. It's all good. If you look at my videos, you'll notice that it's all over the place. 1, 2, 6, 5, 4, 3. The reason is I had a really hard time with part 3. So I had to actually go 3, 4, 5. And it took me until today, one day before it's ready to go and be deleted, before I could get part 5 to actually work. And I hated putting those in those kind of little spaces. And part 5 kind of overlaps part 4 a little bit at the beginning, but we're good. We finally, have it uploaded, thankfully. Just took forever. We are about 126 pages left. We are reading The Running Man by Richard Bauchman, who is also Stephen King. But yeah, now I yawn. I apologize for all the yawns. I have been sick, so it's just all over the place. But I want to read. I've been reading The Regulators, and I really want to get The Running Man done so that we can see what happens. And I know it's going to take a little bit longer, but, we're going to try. The broken nail. Nails haven't been this long in a while. They're actually pretty decent. Anyway, we are at minus 063, counting. Tell you what, helps quiet, kids quiet. I think the husband went back to sleep. We're going to read a little bit. We can get, a couple sections done. We'll be good to go. I know I don't do long lives. I just don't see the point. And I do the highlights because if somebody actually wants to read and listen, they're more than welcome to. Do I expect people to watch? No. Do I do it for views? Nope. I do this because I like reading. I do this because I can. Why the hell not? I put a disclaimer on all my highlighted videos that there is swearing and racial slurs, and you have to remember this is back in the early 80s. And this book is written in a time, the time it is written in is a time where it's kind of futuristic, where basically the government is owned by one corporation, So that's the kind of thing we're looking at. And we're at a game show. And Ben Richards, yep, gotta do my eyes because of my allergies. Ben Richards is our contestant. And we have him up to where he's out of, let me see. He's gotten out of the building, he's gotten out of Boston, or he's in Boston, one of the two. But he's blown up that YMCA, and he's met a little boy, and he's met the family, so we're kind of still with that family. So, we left off with Richards finishing his cigarette, while Bradley went to give Casey some medicine. So minus is 063, and counting. When he awoke, it was still dark, and the inner tide of his body put the time at about 4:30. Again, I apologize. The yawns are there, probably because I am still exhausted. The girl, Cassie, which is the one that's been sick, had been screaming, and Bradley got up. The three of them were sleeping in a small, drafty back bedroom. Stacy and Richards on the floor. Ma slept with the girl. Over the steady wheeze of Stacy's deep sleep respiration, Richards heard Bradley come out of the room. There was a clink of a spoon in the sink. The girl's screams became isolated moans, which trailed into silence. Richards could sense Bradley standing somewhere. I ain't yawned until I got on here. This is crazy. I feel so rude for yawning, but you know what? Yawning is just you need some extra oxygen. I guess I do. Bradley was standing somewhere in the kitchen, immobile, waiting for the silence to come. He returned, sat down, farted, and then the bed springs shifted creakily as he lay down. Bradley? What? Stacy said she was only 5. Is that so? Yes. The urban dialectic was gone from his voice, making him sound unreal and dreamlike. What's a 5-year-old kid doing with lung cancer? I didn't know that they got it. Leukemia, maybe, not lung cancer. There was a bitter, whispered chuckle from the bed. You're from Hardin, right? What's the air pollution count in Harding? I don't know, Richard said. They don't give them with the weather anymore. They haven't for, I don't know, a long time. Not since 2020 in Boston, Bradley whispered back. They're scared to. You ain't got a nose filter, do you? Don't be stupid, Richard said irritably. The goddamn things cost $200, even in a cut-rate stores. I didn't see $200 all year. Did you? No, Bradley said softly. He paused. Stacy's got one. I made it. Ma and Rich Golian and some other people got him too. You're shitting me, Richard said. No, man. He stopped. Richard was suddenly sure that Bradley was weighing what he had said already against a great many more things which he might say, wondering how much was too much. When the words came again, they came with difficulty. We've been reading. That freebie shit is for empty heads. Richard grunted agreement. The gang, some of the guys are just cruisers, All they're interested in is honky stomping on Saturday night. But some of us have been going down to the library since we were 12 or so. They let you in without a card in Boston. No, you can't get a card unless there's someone with a guaranteed income of $5,000 a year in your family. We got some plump-ass kid and kiffed his card. We take turns going. We got a gang suit we wear when we go. Bradley paused. You laugh at me, and I'll cut you, man. I'm not laughing. At first, we only read sex books, and then Cassie first started getting sick. I got into the pollution stuff. They got all the books on impurity counts and smog levels and nose filters in the reservoir section. We got a key made from a wax blank. Man, did you know that everybody in Tokyo had to wear a nose filter by 2012? No. Rich and Dink Moran built a pollution counter. Dink drew the picture out of the book, and they did it from coffee cans and some stuff they boosted off out of cars. It's hid out in the alley. Back in 1978, they had an air pollution scale that went from 1 to 20. You understand? Yes. When it got up to 12, the factories and all the pollution-producing shit had to shut down till the weather changed. It was a federal law until 1987, when the revised Congress rolled it back. The shadow on the bed rose up on his elbow. I bet you know a lot of people with asthma. Is that right? Sure, Richard said cautiously. I've got a touch myself. You get that from the air. Christ, everybody knows you stay in the house when it's hot and cloudy and the air doesn't move. Temperature inversion, Bradley said grimly. And lots of people get asthma, sure. The air gets like cough syrup in August and September, but lung cancer? You ain't talking about asthma, Bradley said. He's talking about emphysema. Emphysema? Richards turned the word over in his mind. He could not assign a meaning to it, although the word was faintly familiar. She's actually yeah, she'll lay there and chew on her bottle. All right. All the tissues in your lungs swell up. You have a heave and heave, and you're still out of breath. You know, a lot of people who get like that, Richards thought he did. He knew a lot of people who had died like that. They don't talk about that one, Bradley said, as if he had read Richard's thoughts. Now, the pollution count in Boston is 20 on a good day. That's like smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day, just breathing. On a bad day, it gets as high as 42. Old dudes drop dead all over town. Asthma goes on the death certificate, but it's the air, the air, the air. And they're pouring it out just as fast as they can. Big smokestacks going 24 hours a day. The big boys like it that way. Those $200 nose filters aren't worth shit. They're just 2 pieces of screen with a little piece of methylated cotton between them. That's all. The only good ones are from General Atomics. The only ones who can afford them are the big boys. They gave us the freebie to keep us off the streets so we can breathe ourselves to death without making any trouble. How do you like that? The cheapest GA nose filter on the market goes for $6,000 new dollars. We made one for Stacy for $10 from that book. We used an atomic nugget the size of the moon on your fingernail. Got it out of a hearing aid we bought in a hawk shop, $7. Do you like that? Richard said nothing. He was speechless. When Kathy boots off, you know, they'll put cancer on the death certificate. Shit, they'll put asthma. Or you think they're going to put on it. But, when Cassie boots off, you think they're going to put cancer on the death certificate? Shit, they'll put asthma. Else everybody might get scared. Somebody might kiff the library card and find out lung cancer is up 700% since 2015. Is that true? Or are you making that up? I read it in a book, man. They're killing us. The freebie is killing us. It's like a magician getting you to watch the cakes falling out of his helper's blouse while he pulls the rabbits out of his pants and puts them in his hat. He paused and then he said dreamily, "Sometimes I think that I could blow the whole thing out of the water with 10 minutes talk time on the freebie. Tell him, show him, everybody could have a nose filter if the network wanted them to have them." "And I'm helping them?" Richard said. "That ain't your fault. You got to run." Killian's face and the face of Arthur M. Burns rose up in front of Richard's. He wanted to smash them, stomp them, walk on them, better still, rip out their nose filters and turn them into the street. "People's mad," Bradley said. "They've been mad at the honkies for 30 years. All they need is a reason. A reason. One reason." Richard drifted off to sleep with the repetition in his ears. Minus 062 and counting. Richard stayed in all day while Bradley was out seeing about the car and arranging with another member of the gang to drive it to Manchester. Bradley and Stacy came back at 6 and Bradley thumbed at the freebie. "All set, man. We go tonight." "Now?" Bradley smiled humorlessly. "Don't you want to see yourself coast to coast?" Richard discovered he did. And when the Running Man lead-on came on, he watched, fascinated. Bobby Thompson stared deadpan at the camera from the middle of a brilliant post in the sea of darkness. "Watch," he said. "This is one of the wolves that walks among you." A huge blow-up of Richard's face appeared on the screen. It held for a minute, then dissolved to the speed photos of Richards, this time in the John Griffin Springer disguise. Dissolved back to Thompson, looking grave. "I speak particularly to the people of Boston tonight. Yesterday afternoon, 5 policemen went to a blazing, agonized death in the basement of the Boston YMCA at the hands of this wolf, who has set a clever, merciless trap. Who is he tonight? Where is he tonight? Look at him." Thompson faded into the first of the two clips which Richard had filmed that morning. Stacy had dropped them in the mailbox on Commonwealth Avenue, across the city. He had let Ma hold the camera in the back bedroom after he had draped the window and all the furniture. All of you watching this, Richard's image said slowly. Not the technicos, not the people in the penthouses. I don't mean you shits. You people in the developments, and the ghettos, and the cheap high-rises. You people in the psycho gangs. You people without jobs. You kids getting busted for dope. You don't have, and crimes you didn't commit, because the network wants to make sure you aren't meeting together and talking together. I want to tell you about a monstrous conspiracy to deprive you of the very breath in you. The audio suddenly became a mixture of squeaks, pops, and gargles. A moment later, it died altogether. Richard's mouth was moving, but no sound was coming out. We seem to have lost our audio, Bobby Thompson's voice came smoothly, but we don't need to listen to any more of this murderer's radical ravings to understand what we're dealing with, do we? No, the audience screamed. What will you do if you see him on your street? Turn him in! And what are you going to do when we find him? Kill him! Richards pounded his fist against the tired arm of the one easy chair in the apartment's kitchen living room. Those bastards, he said helplessly. Did you think they'd let you go on air with it? Bradley asked mockingly. Oh no, man. I'm surprised they let you get away with as much as they did. I didn't think, Richard said sickly. No, I guess you didn't, Bradley said. The first clip faded into the second, and this one Richards had asked people watching to storm the libraries, demand cards, find out the truth. He had read off a list of books dealing with air pollution and water pollution that Bradley had given him. Hi. What is it? What is it? What? Can I finish this section at least? I mean, I've only been reading for 15, 20 minutes. Like 17. Not even that. You gonna let me finish? If you let me finish, then we can go outside, okay? Let me finish the section and then we'll go outside. Alright? Just give me a minute. Let me finish. I mean, it's only another page and a half. It's gonna be kind of short, but I'll probably be back later. He read off a list of books dealing with air pollution and water pollution that Bradley had given him. Richard's image opened its mouth. Fuck every one of you, the image said. The lips seemed to be moving around different words, but how many of the 200 million people watching were going to notice that? Fuck all pigs. Fuck the game commission. I'm gonna kill every pig I see. There was more. Enough so Richards wanted to plug his ears and run out of the room. He couldn't tell if it was the voice of a mimic or a herrig made up of spliced bits of audio tape. The clip faded to the split screen of Thompson's face and the still photo of Richards. Behold the man, Thompson said. The man who would kill. The man who would mobilize an army of malcontents like himself to run riot through your streets, raping and burning and overturning. The man would lie, cheat, and kill. He has done all these things. Benjamin Richards, the voice cried out with a cold, commanding, One Testament anger. Are you watching? If so, you've been paid your dirty blood money, $100 for each hour. Now, number 54, but you have remained free, and an extra $500, $100 for each of these 5 men. Hi. Oh, I'm almost done. Hold on, I'm almost done. You gotta beat me up. Why? The faces of young, clear-featured policemen began appearing on the screen. I know. Oh, really? The still had apparently been taken at the police academy graduation exercise. They looked fresh, full of sap and hope, heartbreakingly vulnerable. Softly, a single trumpet began to play taps. And these, Thompson's voice was now low and hoarse with emotion, these were their families. Wives hopefully smiling, children that had been coaxed to smile into the camera. A lot of children. Richard's cold and sick and nauseated, lowered his head and pressed the back of his hand over his mouth. Bradley's hand, warm and muscular, pressed his neck. Hey, no, no, man. That's put on. That's all fake. They were probably a bunch of old harness bulls who... Shut up, Richard said. Oh, shut up. Just please shut up. $500, Thompson said, saying. An infinite hate and contempt filled his voice. Richard's face on the screen again. Cold, hard, devoid of all emotion, save an expression of bloodlust that seemed chiefly to be in the eyes. 5 police, 5 wives, 19 children. What? It's like, wow. It comes to just about $17.25 for each of the dead and the bereaved, the heartbroken. Oh, yes. You worked cheap, Ben Richards. Even Judas got 30 pieces of silver, but you didn't even demand that. Somewhere, even now, a mother is telling her little boy that Daddy won't be coming home ever again because a desperate, greedy man with a gun. Kill her, a woman began sobbing. Vile, dirty murderer! God will strike you dead. Strike him dead, the audience over the chant. Behold the man. He has been paid his blood money, but the man who lives by violence shall die by it. And let every man's hand be raised against Ben Richards. Hate and fear in every voice, rising in a steady, throbbing roar. No, they wouldn't turn him in. They would rip him to shreds on sight. Bradley turned off the screen and faced him. That's what you're dealing with, man? How about it? Maybe I'll kill them, Richard said with a thoughtful voice. Maybe, before I'm done. I'll get up to the 19th floor of that place and just hunt up the maggots who wrote that. Maybe I'll just kill them all. Don't talk no more, Stacy burst out wildly. Don't talk no more about it. In the other room, Cassie slept, her drugged, dying sleep. All right, I have got to take my puppies out, so we're going to pause and I will come back and continue, but we're going to go on a BRB. Okay? I will be right back. I'm going to mute, so get your breakfast, get your dinner, get your lunch, get your drink, get your whatever you want to do. I will be back. Give me about 5 minutes. Okay? All right. I just realized I forgot to unmute even though I came back. So let's try this again. Sorry it took so long. Forgot to unmute. I went and got me some toast, some tea, went out with the dogs a little bit. Hopefully they got some energy out of them. So I only put one Splenda in that tea so it's not so bland, but we'll see how we do. So we are on 061 and counting. Bradley had not dared drill any holes in the floor of the trunk, so Richard's curled in a miserable ball with his mouth and nose pressed toward the tiny notch of light, which was the trunk's keyhole. Bradley had also pulled out some of the inner trunk insulation around the lid, and that let it in a small draft. The car lifted with a jerk, and he knocked his head against the upper deck. Bradley had told him the ride would be, No, you don't get to steal my toast. Go. That's bad. Bad. Bradley told him the ride would be at least an hour and a half, with 2 stops from roadblocks, perhaps more. Before he closed the trunk, he gave Richards a large revolver. Every 10th or 12th car, they gave it a heavy looking over, he said. They opened the trunk to poke around. Those are good odds, 11 to 1. If it don't come to that, if it don't come up, plug you some pork. The car lurched and heaved over up the pothole, cracked, crazed streets of the inner city. Once the kid jeered, and there was a thump of a thrown piece of paving. Then the sounds of increasing traffic all around them, and more frequent stops for lights. Richards lay passively, holding the pistol tightly in his right hand, thinking how different Bradley had looked in the gang suit. It was a sober Dillon Street, double-breasted, as gray as bank walls. It was rounded off with a maroon tie and a small gold NAACP pin. Bradley had made the leap from scruffy gang member, pregnant lady stay away, some of us'ns eat fetuses, oh my lord, to the sober black business fellow who would know exactly who to Tom. You look good, Richard said admiringly. In fact, it's damn incredible. Praise God, Ma said. I thought you'd enjoy the transformation, my good man, Bradley said with a quiet dignity. I'm the direct manager of Raygon Chemicals, you know. We do a thriving business in this area. Fine city, Boston. Immensely convivial. Stacy burst into giggles. You best shut up, nigga, Bradley said. Else I'll make you shit in your boots and eat it. You Tom so good, Bradley. Stacy giggled, not intimidated in the least. You really fucking funky. Now the car swung right onto the smoother surface and descended into a spiraling arch. They were on an entrance ramp, going up 495 or a feeder expressway. Copper wires of tension were stuffed into his legs. 1 in 11. It's not bad odds. The car picked up speed and height, kicked into drive, then slowed abruptly and kicked out. A voice, terrifyingly close, yelled with monotonous regularity. Pull over! Have your license and registration ready. Pull over! Have your... Already. Starting already. You're so hot, man. Hot enough to check the trunk on one of the cars in 8 or 6 or maybe every one. The car came to a full stop. Richard's eyes moved like trapped rabbits in their sockets. He gripped the revolver. 060 and counting. Step out of your vehicle, sir, the bored, authoritative voice was saying. License and registration, please. The door opened and closed. The engine thrumped softly, holding the car an inch off the pavement. Direct manager of Raygon Chemicals. Bradley going into his song and dance. Dear God. What if he didn't have the papers to back it up? What if there was no Raygon Chemicals? The back door opened, and someone began rummaging in the back seat. It sounded as if a cop, or was it a government guard that did this? Richards wondered half coherently. Was about to crawl right into the trunk with him. The door slammed. Pete walked around the back of the car. Richards licked his lips and held the gun tighter. Visions of dead policemen gibbered before him. Angelic faces on twisted, porcelain bodies. He wondered if the cop would hose him with machine gun bullets when he opened the trunk and saw Richards lying there like a curled-up salamander. He wondered if Bradley would take off, try to run. He was going to piss himself. He hadn't done that since he was a kid, and his brother would tickle him until his bladder let go. Yes, all those muscles down there were loosening. He would put the bullet right at the juncture of the cop's nose and forehead, splattering brains and splintered skull fragments and startled streamers to the sky. Make a few more orphans. Yes, God, Jesus loves me. This I know, for my bladder tells me so. Christ Jesus, what's he doing? Ripping the seat out? Sheila, I love you so much, and how far will $6,000 take you? A year, maybe? If they don't kill you for it. Then on the street again, up and down, cross on the corner, swinging the hips, flirting with the empty pocketbook. Hey, mister, I go down. This is a clean, kitty kid. Teach you how. A hand whacked the top of the trunk casually in passing. Richard spit back a scream. Dust in his nostrils, throat tickling. High school biology sitting in the back row, scratching his initials and Sheila's on the ancient desktop. The sneeze is a function of the invulnerable muscles. I'm going to sneeze my goddamn head off, and it's point blank. I can still put that bullet right through his squash end. What's in the trunk, mister? Bradley's voice, jocular, a little bored. A spare cylinder that doesn't work half right. Keys on my key ring. Wait, I'll get it. If I wanted it, I'd ask. Other back door opened and closed. Drive on. Hang tight, fella. Hope you get him. Drive on, mister. Move your ass. The cylinders cranked up, the car lifted and accelerated. It slowed once and must have been waved on. Richard jolted a little as the car rose, sailed a little, and kicked into drive. His breath came in tired little moans. He didn't have to sneeze anymore. 059 and counting. The ride seemed much longer than an hour and a half, and they were stopped twice more. One of them seemed to be a routine license check. At the next one, a drawling cop with a dull-witted voice talked to Bradley for some time about how the goddamn commie bikers were helping that guy Richards and probably the other one too. Laughlin had not killed anyone, but it was rumored that he had raped a woman in Topeka. Excuse me. After that, there was nothing but monotonous whine of the wind and the scream of his cramped, frozen muscles. Richards did not sleep, but his punished mind did finally push into a dazed semi-consciousness. There was no carbon monoxide with the air cars. Thank God for that. Centuries after the last roadblock, the car kicked into a low gear and banked up a spiraling exit ramp. Richards blinked sluggishly and wondered if he was going to throw up. For the first time in his life, he felt carsick. They went through a sickening series of loops and dives that Richards supposed was a traffic interchange. Another 5 minutes and city sounds looked over again. Richards tried repeatedly to shift his body into a new position, but it was impossible. He finally subsided, waiting numbly for it to be over. His right arm, which was curled under him, had gone to sleep an hour ago. Now it felt like a block of wood. He could touch it with the tip of his nose and feel only the pressure of his nose. They took a right, went straight for a little, then turned again. The bottom dropped out of Richard's stomach as the car dipped down a sharp incline. The echoing of cylinders told him that they were inside. They had gotten to the garage. A little helpless sound of relief escaped him. Got your check, buddy? A voice asked. Right here, pal. Rampway 5. Thanks. They bore right, the car went up, paused, then turned right again, then left. They settled into idle, then the car dropped into a soft bump as the engine died. Journey's end. There was a pause, and the hollow sound of Bradley's door opening and closing. His footsteps clicked toward the trunk, then the clink of light in front of Richard's eyes disappeared as the keyhole slid home. "You there, Benny?" "No," he croaked. "You left me back at the state line. Open the goddamn thing." "Just a second. Place is empty right now. Your car's parked next to us? On the right? Can you get out quick?" "I don't know. Try hard. Here we go." The trunk lid popped up, letting the dim garage light. Richards got up on one arm, got one leg over the edge, and could go no further. His cramped body screamed. Bradley took one arm and hauled him out. His legs wanted to buckle. Bradley hooked him under the armpit and half led, half pushed him to the battered green wint on the right. He popped open the driver's side door, shoved Richards in, and slammed it shut. A moment later, Bradley also slid in. "Jesus," he said softly. "We got here, man. We got here." "Yeah," Richard said, "back to go. Collect $200. They smoked in the shadows, their cigarettes gleaming like eyes. For a little while, neither of them said anything. Minus 058 counting. Yeah, let me finish real quick. "We almost got it at the first roadblock," Bradley was saying as Richards tried to massage feeling back into his arm. It felt as if phantom nails had been pushed into it. The cop almost opened it. Almost. He blew out smoke in a huge huff. Richard said nothing. "How do you feel?" Bradley asked presently. "It's getting better. Take my wallet out for me. I can't make my arm work just right yet." Bradley shooed the words away with one hand. "Later, I want to tell you how Rich and I set it up." Richards lit another cigarette from the stub of the first. A dozen Charlie horses were loosening slowly. "There's a hotel room reserved for you on Winthrop Street. The Winthrop Street house is the name of the place. Sounds fancy. It ain't. The name is Ogden Brasner. Can you remember that?" "Yes, I'll be recognized immediately." Bradley reached into the back seat, got a box, and dropped into Richard's lap. It was long, brown, tied with string. To Richards, it looked like the kind of box that rented graduation gowns came in. He looked at Bradley, questioning. "Open it." He did. There was a pair of thick lieutenant glasses lying on the top of a drift of black cloth. Richards put the glasses on the dashboard and took out the garment. It was a priest's robe. Beneath it, lying on the bottom of the box, was a rosary, a Bible, and a purple stole. "A priest?" Richard asked. "Right. You change right here. I'll help you. There's a cane in the back seat. Your act ain't blind, but it's pretty close. Bump into things. You're in Manchester to attend a Council of Churches meeting on drug abuse. Got it?" "Yes," Richard said. He hesitated, fingers on the buttons of his shirt. "Do I wear my pants under this rig?" Bradley burst out laughing. All right, we're going to read 057 and counting, and then we're going to stop for the day. Bradley talked rapidly as he drove Richards across town. "There's a box of gummed mailing labels in your suitcase," he said. "That's in the trunk. Stickers say, after 5 days, return to Brick Hill Manufacturing Company, Manchester, New Hampshire." Rich and another guy ran him off. They got a press at the Stabers headquarters in Boylston on Boylston Street. Ugh. "Every day you send your 2 tapes to me in the box with one of those stickers. I'll mail them to Games from Boston. Send a stiff speed delivery. That's one they'll never figure out." The car cozied up to the curb in front of the Winthrop house. "This car will be back in the you park it. Don't try to drive out of Manchester unless you change your disguise. You gotta be a chameleon, man." "How long do you think it'll be safe here?" Richards asked. He thought, "I've put myself in his hands." He didn't seem that he could think rationally for himself anymore. He could smell mental exhaustion on himself like body odor. "Your reservation's for a week. That might be okay. It might not. Play it by ear. There's a name and address in the suitcase. Fella in Portland, Maine. They'll hide you for a day or two. It'll cost, but they're safe. I gotta go, man. This is the 5-minute zone. Money time. How much? Richard said. 600. Bullshit! That doesn't even cover expenses. Yes, it does. With a few bucks left over for the family. Take 1,000. You need your dough, pal. Uh-huh. Richards looked at him helplessly. Christ, Bradley. Send us more if you make it. Send us 1,000,000. Put us on easy street. Do you think I will? Bradley smiled a soft, sad smile and said nothing. Then why? Richard asked flatly. Why are you doing so much? I can understand you hide me out. I'd do that. But you must have burst your club's arm. They didn't mind. They know the score. What score? Out's not. That score. If we don't stick out our necks for our own, they got us. No need to wait for the air. We could just as well run a pipe from the stove to the living room. Turn on the freebies and wait. Someone will kill you, Richard said. Someone will stool on you, and you'll end up in the basement floor with your guts beat out. Or Stacy, or Ma. Bradley's eyes flashed dimly. A bad day is coming, though. A bad day for the maggots with the guts full of roast beef. I see blood in the moon for them. Guns and torches, mojo that walks and talks. People have been seeing those things for 2,000 years. 5-minute buzzer went off and Richards fumbled for the door handle. Thank you, he said. I don't know how to say it any other way. Go on, Bradley said, before I get a ticket. A strong brown hand clutched the robe. And when they get you, take a few along. Richards opened the rear door and popped the trunk to get the black satchel inside. Bradley handed him a cordovan-colored cane wordlessly. The car pulled out into traffic smoothly. Richard stood on the curb for a minute, watching him go, watching him myopically, he hoped. The taillights flashed once at the corner, then the car swung out of sight, back to the parking lot where Bradley would leave it and pick up the other to go back to Boston. Richards had a weird sensation of relief and realized that he was feeling empathy for Bradley. How glad he must be to have me off his back, finally. Richard made himself miss the first step up the Winthrop's house entrance, and the doorman assisted him. So we will continue either later today or tomorrow. 056, we're halfway through almost. So I want you all to have a good day. I'm going to make some breakfast for the family, and then I'm going to rest and read the regulators because my body is telling me I am done for the day. So hopefully you'll have a good day. Have a blessed day. And remember, there's always somebody that's worse off and somebody that's better off. Never think that you're the bottom of the run. God bless. Have a good day.